Before we get into the video, guys, I have a new Discord server. The link to join this will be in the description. We will be able to talk about different stuff with college basketball and do Q&As, and I'll announce my videos and stuff like that. So make sure you click the link to join the Discord server. Let's get into the video. March has arrived, and it's time to score big on the nonstop action with MyBookie. MyBookie is the best place for you to cash in on the insane buzzer beaters, huge upsets, and white-knuckle finishes. They offer live betting on every game, bracket challenges, national championship futures, and more. You can bet on almost anything, including the Democratic nomination, the presidential election, even the name of the next pope. As you can see right here, you can vote for Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders. You can bet on them. MyBookie caters to all players. Whether you research each matchup or you fill out your bracket based on the mascots, MyBookie has something for you. Join now and start winning today. Visit mybookie.ag up in the search bar and use promo code SuperCeltic24 for a 50% deposit bonus. That's SuperCeltic24 for a 50% deposit bonus. Bet big, win big with mybookie.ag. Sup guys, it's Alex here, and welcome to the March 12th edition of the Bracketology update. This one, I'm using Joe Lenardi's March 9th bracket here. He hasn't updated since there hasn't really been very many important games happening in the last couple of days, and I've done Jerry Palm's CBS one and Andy Katz's just NCAA March Madness one yesterday. But today I will be doing NCAA Game Sim, to where I'm going to be simulating each game of the NCAA tournament and just kind of moving through the actual bracket right here, like with the Excel bracket that I've normally been doing, and just having the simulator do it for me, and seeing I'll be giving my thoughts throughout. But before I get into that, yesterday was just an absolutely surreal day, to where they announced that the NCAA tournament is going to be played without fans. It's just absolutely insane. I think they'll probably end up canceling the tournament just because no fans are going to be there, and that means no revenue for the NCAA, and they're probably just going to be, and it's probably a public health risk, especially with Rudy Gobert having the virus as an active player, and then the NBA suspending their season, which now LeBron's calling for them to cancel it. I don't know. It's just a really weird situation. It's really fluid. Yesterday was just so surreal, and I'm sure more is going to come out in either today or the next couple of days. Hopefully the tournament still goes on. I really want it to, and as college basketball fans, I'm sure you guys do too. Hopefully the Selection Sunday and March Madness will keep going on. It's my favorite time of the year, but health comes first or whatever. We'll see what ends up happening. I think I really want them to just play behind closed doors. It'll be an interesting atmosphere, or a lack of atmosphere, but I don't know. They'll probably end up getting canceled. It's just so weird at this point. But the tournament is still on right now, so we will keep continuing with these bracketologies until it does get canceled. So up first, we'll have Kansas versus Winthrop. The higher team will be the home team. The lower seeded team will be the away team, but I will not be clicking home court advantage to keep it as neutral as possible, like the actual NCAA tournament itself. And up first, we'll have Kansas beating Winthrop 104-270 by 34 points. They're not going to struggle too much there. So up next, we'll have Houston and USC. We got Houston right there. Then we'll have USC as the 8 versus 9. I think in my bracketologies, I've said that USC would probably end up winning this game most of the time. And right here, we have Houston winning 62-53. Hopefully, this doesn't end up being all chalk. I tried to do a couple of matchups throughout the course of preparing for this video, and there were some upsets. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with this live one. If the tournament does go on, I'm sure I'll be doing this too as a predictions video. 82-73, we do have BYU, who's one of the hottest teams in the nation moving forward past Yale. Up next, we'll have Wisconsin and New Mexico State. These two teams are pretty hot moving into the actual tournament itself. So we have New Mexico State, who hasn't lost since December 15th, and then Wisconsin, who's won 8 in a row. But right here, they destroy New Mexico State by 30 points. So they are not thinking an upset's going to happen there at all. So moving on to the 6 versus 11 matchup in Iowa with their Player of the Year candidate in Luka Garza versus the UCLA Bruins, who have been absolutely hot as of late. Wow, another 30-point game. Iowa winning by 30 points over UCLA. I think that one will be pretty interesting to see happen there if that does end up happening, to where they freaking win by 30 points. But next, we'll have the 3 seed Duke Blue Devils versus the Belmont Bruins. I think this will probably end up being a 30 or 40 point game too. Only 5 points. Wow, they must not think too highly of Duke. Duke only winning by 5 points over Belmont. Then we'll have West Virginia and UCLA, or not UCLA, Utah State. I think that in my predictions video for this game, I think I picked West Virginia to win. It'll be interesting to see what NCAA Game Sim thinks. I think that Utah State is going to win by 1 point. We have our first upset of the simulation so far. We have 10 seed Utah State moving on here past West Virginia. Up next, we'll have Creighton versus Little Rock. I'm not thinking this one will be too crazy. I think that Creighton's probably going to end up winning this one by 40 points. So once we've clicked submit here, we see that Creighton wins by 16. That's kind of a lower margin than I was thinking, but we'll kind of move up the bracket here. We'll keep Creighton as the higher seeded team. They will face Utah State, who is the 10 seed, who did get the upset. Well, we see another upset here for a spot in the Sweet 16. We do. We see Utah State moving on as the 10 seed, pulling off the 10/2 upset there. We have our first major upset of this NCAA like bracketology game sim. So we'll have Duke, 3-seed Duke facing off against 6-seed Iowa here. And we have Duke moving on by 13 points. Duke moving to the Sweet 16. That probably is promising for their Final Four bid right here. Then we'll have BYU and Wisconsin. Wisconsin as the 4-seed, obviously. They'll be the higher seeded team. Moving on here. BYU is up next. Wisconsin versus BYU. I think Wisconsin would probably end up winning that game in real life, and yep, they win right here. Wisconsin wins 82-68 to move on to the Sweet 16. And we have Kansas versus Houston. I would be really surprised if Houston ends up pulling off the upset here, both in real life and in the simulation. I think Kansas is probably going to end up moving to the Final Four out of this bracket, and yeah, Kansas wins 90-62. Don't think the margin would be that huge, but I do think they'd end up winning that game. So we will keep it rolling right here with Kansas versus Wisconsin for a spot in the Elite Eight. And we have Wisconsin pulling off the upset 63-62. We have our number 1 and number 2 seeds knocked out of this region. Wisconsin moving on here by 1 point over Kansas. So then we'll have Duke versus Utah State here in the Sweet 16 for a spot in the Elite Eight. Will we have another upset? This has actually been pretty crazy, this simulation. No, Duke is moving on as the 3-seed right here, which sets up a rematch of the 2015 National Championship game. The 3-seeded Duke Blue Devils versus the 4-seeded Wisconsin Badgers for a spot in the Final Four. And oh my gosh, a 39-point victory for Wisconsin here, 79-40. Man, the simulation's actually been pretty fun to do. We have Wisconsin here moving on to the Final Four. I'm thinking this video is probably going to be pretty long too, just because it's taken forever to do it. So I apologize if this video does end up being close to like 20 minutes or something. I think this has been a really fun video to make, maybe a bit long for you guys to be able to watch. I'm just going to be going with like these playing games for one team to try to win. We have Dayton here moving on past Robert Morris for a spot in the second round. I think that one was going to be pretty obvious. Up next, we have St. Mary's versus Florida. I'm going to just scroll down here to St. Mary's. Then we have Florida moving on. In real life, I think that Florida would probably end up winning this game. But in the game sim, yeah, they think that Florida is going to win 79-70 and move on as the slight 9/8 upset. Up next, we have Butler versus Cincinnati. It's going to be interesting to see this game happen in real life, too. Butler's kind of been struggling as of late, and Cincinnati's just been really inconsistent throughout the course of the season. Butler wins by 1 point here, 55-54 over Cincinnati. We almost see a 12/5 upset, but alas, we do not. Up next, we have 4-seed Maryland versus the 13-seed of Vermont. Vermont is ripe for an upset. I think that they could potentially win this game against Maryland in the actual tournament itself, and they give them a challenge. They only lose by 1 point to Maryland. Maryland holds off the upset bid by Vermont. Up next, we'll have Michigan as the 6th seed versus the 11th-seed East Tennessee State, who you guys know is one of my favorite mid-major teams this year. They probably won't end up winning this one just because it's a game sim. Yeah, they end up losing by 2 points. They almost got the victory here over Michigan, but Michigan does move on. We've had some close games, some potential upsets in this bracketology. Up next, we'll have Villanova versus Colgate, but in real life, we wouldn't because Colgate did lose their final to Boston University last night, so I am going to go with Boston here if I can find it. Boston University. There we go. Jalen already hasn't updated it for some reason, but they did end up winning their conference tournament yesterday, and they have Boston University pulling off the 14/3 upset. I'm going to go ahead and switch that to Boston so you guys don't get confused. Boston University pulling off the 14/3. Man, this simulation has been crazy so far. Up next, we'll have Illinois versus Marquette for a spot in the next round. I think this one would probably be pretty interesting to see. I don't know what's going on right here. We're not, oh my gosh, we're not picking Russ College there. Next, we'll have Marquette. There we go. Moving on. I don't know what was happening there. But Illinois versus Marquette for a spot in the next round. We have Illinois moving on, I think, with Iota Sumu. I think that definitely is possible. Then we have Kentucky versus UC Irvine. They better not freaking pick Kentucky, get upset here. It's going to be this has been really fun, in my opinion, to do. Seeing all these upsets in the simulation. And then we have, we have UC Irvine pulling off the 15/2 upset of Kentucky. Oh my gosh, as a Kentucky fan, this is horrible news to see. We will have Dayton go ahead and face off against Florida for a spot in the Sweet 16. Oh my gosh, this is not, and this has been crazy. We will have Dayton moving on as the 68-62 victory, but I am just blown away. Both Kentucky and Villanova falling here. Butler and Maryland are up next. We have Maryland as the 4. Man, Kentucky and Villanova, what is going on with this simulation? We are having a 14 and 15 seed move on. Butler as the 5 gets the victory here over the 4 seed Maryland Terrapins. Up next, we'll have Michigan and Boston University. Michigan as the 6 seed obviously is going to be the higher ranked team, but Boston as the 14 seed. Will we see our first double seeded team in the Elite 8? No, we're not going to go with Boston College. We got to scroll down just a little bit to Boston University. And I think the Sweet 16, not Elite 8. We have Michigan here moving on past Boston, though it would be pretty hilarious to see. Up next, we have Illinois and UC Irvine. That was definitely probably the easiest pass for Illinois to make it to the Sweet 16. But you never know. Maybe UC Irvine could pull off the victory here against Illinois just because they did beat Kentucky. We have UC Irvine, a 15 seed, making it to the Sweet 16. What is going on? This is not my coin flip bracket, I promise. We have Dayton moving on, or Dayton here as the 1 seed facing off against, I think it was Butler as the 5. For a spot in the Elite 8, we do have Butler moving on as the 5 seed. Another number 1 seed goes down. So at the minimum, or at the highest, we'll have a 5 seed coming out of this region. Up next, we have Michigan versus UC Irvine into the for a spot in the Elite 8. Now I'm rooting for UC Irvine. Come on, UC Irvine. Oh, they lost by 2 to Michigan. Oh, man, I really want to see that Cinderella run continue. But now we have a 5 versus 6 matchup for a spot in the Final Four. We have 5-seeded Butler versus 6-seed Michigan. It's going to be a really interesting tournament if this ends up being the case. And we have Butler moving on as the 5-seed to the Final Four. This has just been absolutely crazy so far. Up next, we'll go ahead and go to this top right regional where we do have Baylor versus Northern Kentucky as the 1 seed, and we'll kind of keep it going over here. We have Baylor, and then if we go back to the matchups over here, I'm going to try to zoom out for you guys just a little bit. There we go. We have Baylor as the 1 seed versus Northern Kentucky. I'm not even sure if they're in here. We'll go Northern Kentucky. We have North Alabama. And if we scroll down a little bit, they got to have Northern Kentucky in here, you'd think. Yep, Northern Kentucky. Will we see a 16-1 upset here? We will not. Baylor wins a low-scoring game, 56-46 over Northern Kentucky. And I'll try to scoot it out just a little bit more for you guys to be able to see. There we go. Up next, we have 8-seed LSU versus Rutgers. So as the home team, we will there we go. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens here. LSU as the 8-seed Tigers versus the 9-seed Rutgers. I can't think of what their freaking mascot is right now. We have Rutgers pulling off the 9-8 upset, 70-68 over LSU. Up next, we have Auburn and Liberty. Will we see a 12-5 right here? If I scroll down just a little bit, we'll select Auburn. Then we have Liberty. Man, this has been so much fun as I'm going through this. We're at 13 minutes in the video now. It's going to be a long one, but please stick with me. We are having some fun here. We have Auburn moving on as the 58-53. Then we have Oregon versus, who is that, North Texas? Yeah, we got North Texas here. North Texas. Will we see a 13-4 upset? We will. North Texas pulling off the 13-4 in the bracketologies I've been doing. I have been picking Oregon to lose in the first round, but it's been to New Mexico State. Man, this has just been absolutely crazy to see happen. Virginia and Indiana up next. We have Indiana pulling off the 11-6 here, 81-71. This tournament has just been absolutely crazy. Up next, we'll have Michigan State versus Bradley. If we can pick Michigan State, where we go, there we go. And we have Bradley, who won Arch Madness in the coming out of the MVC. We will have Michigan State here. I was thinking that maybe they would pick Bradley to pull off the upset. Up next, we have Providence versus Arizona State. These two teams seem to always be like perennial bubble teams. I don't know why it's not. I'll just go ahead and scroll up here, or scroll down to Providence wherever I can find it. I don't know why I wasn't selecting it. Up next, we'll have Arizona State for a spot into the second round. Providence versus Arizona State. We have Providence moving on 88-73. Then up next, we have Florida State versus North Dakota State. North Dakota State was absolutely killing it over the course of their tournament. It was really interesting to see how, I think North Dakota as a 6 seed ended up making the finals of that tournament, but North Dakota State handled them easily. Wasn't even close. Maybe they could pull off the 15-2 upset, but in this simulation, they will not. Florida State gets the 4-point victory. So we will go with Florida State here, moving on to face Providence. I'll go ahead and keep it rolling with this. We keep Florida State as the number 1 seed, or as the higher seed. Then we'll have Providence as the lower seed. For a spot in the Sweet 16, we have Florida State moving on 80-56. Up next, we have Stanford the Indiana versus Michigan State. Michigan State is going to be the higher seed here. And then we have them facing off, if I can find, where is Michigan State? There we go. We have them facing off against Indiana. Battle of the Big Ten teams. I think these two teams only played twice. That's why they're able to face off in the first round. We have Michigan State moving on here, 71-63. Up next, we'll have Auburn and North Texas. Will we see a 13 seed in the Sweet 16? We already saw a 15 seed. This video has just been absolutely crazy. We will go with, hopefully North Texas pulls off the victory here, but they fall by 21 to Auburn. Auburn is moving on to the Sweet 16 as a 5 seed. Then Baylor versus Rutgers for a spot. Will we have our third number 1 seed fall before making the Final Four? We have Baylor versus Rutgers for a spot in the Sweet 16. We have Baylor moving on by 2 points. It's not looking good. Maybe they'll get upset here in the Sweet 16. Baylor versus Auburn here, the 1 seed versus the 5 seed, and I realize this video may end up going over 20 minutes now as I'm recording this. Baylor versus Auburn, we have Baylor winning 59-51. Then Michigan State and Florida State for a spot in the Elite Eight. We'll go ahead and go with Florida State as the higher seed, obviously, since they're the 2, and then Michigan State is the 3. Man, this has been so much fun to do. Florida State versus Michigan State. Michigan State wins 69-52, and then for a spot in the what did I do here? Michigan State's up here at the top. Baylor versus Michigan State for a spot in the Final Four. We're going to have our highest seed so far. Either way, Baylor versus Michigan State. We have our first by 27 points. We have Michigan State moving on here as the lowest seeded team, as the 3 seed. They've been making it to the Final Four in my actual bracketology predictions too, so I think that one's pretty accurate. But then we'll move down here to the West Regional, where we have Gonzaga versus the winner of Prairie View, A&M, and Siena, which I'm just going to say Siena to make it easier to type in. Gonzaga versus Siena. Will we see a 16 seed get the upset? We will not. Gonzaga ends up winning by 17 here. Arizona and Oklahoma for a spot in the second round. Arizona that's Alabama State. Arizona ends up moving, I think they'll end up moving on here. We'll kind of see what happens. Arizona versus Oklahoma for a spot in the next round. We have Arizona moving on 77-73 as the higher seed there. Ohio State versus Stephen F. Austin. In real life, like, this one is a complete 50-50 matchup for me. I can easily see Stephen F. Austin pulling off the upset, but I can easily see Ohio State getting the victory there as well. I don't know where Stephen F. Austin is here. Maybe they're in, where is Stephen F. Austin? This video is going to be a little bit wild. Where is Stephen F. Austin? I do not see Stephen F. Austin anywhere. This is not this is not good. So I guess we'll just try to figure out something here. We will have, where is Stephen F. Austin? What if we type in F. Austin, or maybe just Austin P, maybe? No, I don't know. I can't find Stephen F. Austin, so we will go ahead and have Ohio State moving on here. I don't want to take too much of this bracketology. I'm doing it live, so we're not gonna. I'm not editing and stuff. So we will just have we'll have Ohio State moving on there for the actual tournament video itself. I will try to find Stephen F. Austin. I didn't plan this video out beforehand, too far into it. We'll have Louisville versus Akron moving on here, and I'll try to get Stephen F. Austin in there. We have Louisville winning by almost 40 points here. Yeah, this video is definitely going to be over 20 minutes. Penn State versus the winner of NC State and Texas, which I think would be Texas, so that's why I'm going to go with Texas. Moving on here as the lower seed, we have Penn State versus Texas for a spot in the next round. We have Penn State moving on by 33, 87-54. Then Seton Hall versus Hofstra. I'm pretty sure that Seton Hall would win, but Villanova did lose as the 3 versus 14 here to Boston University, so you never know what's going to happen. Maybe Hofstra pulls off the upset here over Seton Hall. They do not. Seton Hall wins 70-55. We're kind of getting some chalk now. It's continuing. Colorado versus Texas Tech for a spot in the next round. We got Colorado here as the higher seeded team. Texas Tech here moving on as the 10 seed. Then for a spot in the next round, we do have Colorado winning by 6. We're going with basically all chalk so far. We may have had Stephen F. Austin winning there, but I could not find him in the simulator. I'll be looking more into it in the future. We have San Diego State, and I think that was Eastern Washington. Yeah, Eastern Washington moving on here. Will we see another 15-2 like Kentucky ended up losing? They gave them a challenge, 78-75, but San Diego State does move on, and we'll keep it rolling right here with San Diego State as the higher seed. Moving on to face 7 seed Colorado for a spot in the Sweet 16. Colorado pulls off the upset here. Another 2 seed falls. We will have no 2 seeds in the Final Four. Up next, we have Seton Hall versus Penn State for a spot in the Sweet 16. Will we see another 6 seed moving on to the Sweet 16? We'll have we'll have Penn State right here. Seton Hall and Penn State. We have Penn State pulling off the 78-66 upset over Seton Hall. Then we have Louisville and Ohio State. Louisville as the 4 seed is going. I think they'll probably end up winning this game in the simulation, but you never know at this point. Ohio State is the 5 seed for a spot in the Sweet 16. We have Ohio State pulling off the 75-64 slight upset there as the 5 seed. Then Gonzaga and Arizona. I think these two teams have played in the tournament recently. Don't quote me on that. I may be wrong. But for a spot in the Sweet 16, Gonzaga versus Arizona, we have Arizona pulling off the upset. We will have no number 1 seeds in the Final Four. This has been absolutely crazy. I swear this is not the coin flip video. Arizona moving on as the 8 seed to the Sweet 16, which they will go on to face Ohio State for a spot in the Elite 8. And the college basketball simulator thinks that Ohio State will win by 25 right there and move on to the Elite 8. Then up next, we have Penn State and Colorado. Penn State is the 6, Colorado is the 7, so Penn State will be up here as the higher seed. Colorado will be the lower seed as the 7. And where'd it go? There we go. 6 versus 7 for a spot in the Elite 8. We have Penn State moving on 83-70. This video has just been absolutely crazy. Ohio State versus Penn State for a spot in the in the Final Four of 5 versus 6. Battle of the Big Ten teams. We have Penn State here moving on as a lower seed, 5 versus 6 for a spot in the Final Four, and we have 5-seeded Ohio State moving on to the Final Four. So we have, what is this, a 4 seed, 5 seed, 3 seed, and 5 seed, 3 Big Ten teams in the Final Four. Then for a spot in the actual championship game itself, we will have Wisconsin as the 4 seed, which is the higher seeded team. Then we have Butler as the 5 seed. For a spot in the national championship game, we have Wisconsin moving on 78-60 as into the championship game. So we are guaranteed to have, and I just realized now I spelled Wisconsin wrong. I missed the C. I've been doing it this whole entire video. We have a guaranteed all Big Ten championship game, which is going to be the Big Ten's first championship since 2000. They are guaranteed to get it if this does hold. Ohio State versus Michigan State for a spot in the national championship game. We have Michigan State moving on 77-70, which sets up Wisconsin versus Michigan State for the national championship, with Michigan State being the 3 seed and Wisconsin being the 4 seed. Wisconsin is going to be here as the lower seed if I can get this set up. There we go. Michigan State versus Wisconsin. NCAA Game Sim thinks that the national champion in 2012 based off of this tournament is going to be Wisconsin 69-63 Michigan State. So we have Wisconsin as the 5 seed winning the tournament. Man, this is this has been a really fun video to make. I'm sorry for this video being long. It's looking like it's going to be like a 23-minute video, something like that. I apologize for the long length of the video, but if you've been watching it and having fun watching it along with me, who's been having fun making the video, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully the tournament does happen so we can see some craziness stuff like this. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.